Hi everybody, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. Look at this beautiful lakeside vista. This is Valtelline, a beautiful part of Lombardia that's north of Milano on the Swiss border. Valtelline is famous for beautiful mountain vistas, for fine wines and good dairy products, and especially a dish that's a big fave of mine. I've been making it for more than 30 years. It's called Pizzoccheri. So that's Pizzoccheri alla Valtellinese, which is not easy for my tongue. Valtelline is also very famous for skiing, as you can see, and beautiful mountains and all sorts of neat things. But the pasta dish is, I think, the best part of Valtelline. This dish is made traditionally with buckwheat noodles. Buckwheat is called Saracen wheat, Saracena, in Italy, and it's really only popular in Valtelline, although they use it a little bit in other places. I can't find buckwheat noodles these days, Pizzoccheri. You can order them online, of course. Thought about making them because I really love to make pasta and they're very easy to make. But then, you know, I also really like to get dinner on the table, and I think you probably do too. So today we're using whole wheat pasta. That one from California was really pretty, but it was a 10-ounce package and it wasn't really enough for this recipe, so I'll use that another time. This is imported from Italy. These are fettuccine and they're whole grain durum, so they should be just dandy for this dish. The other ingredients are really just potatoes, Swiss chard, and cheese. Now, you need 2 cheeses. I chose as our grana, I chose some really good Reggiano Parmigiano and also Fontina Val d'Aosta as the other cheese, because you probably won't find Valtelline cheeses in shops in the U.S. Bito and Casera. So most people use Fontina. Use Montasio if you can find it. There are other possibilities there. Any mountain cheese will be nice. You could even use a sheep's milk cheese or something to give it a little extra tang. We're going to flavor this dish with a browned butter with sage and garlic today. The sage is optional. I don't usually use it, but sometimes I do, and it has a nice kind of wintry flavor, I think. So you want to start by putting a big pot of water on to boil. An 8 or 10 quart pot with at least 6 quarts of water and a nice handful of salt. Get your potatoes going. You want to peel those and cut them into cubes about, what is that, 3/4 of an inch? Something like that. Pieces that'll cook in no more than 20 minutes. Then you can get your Swiss chard going. You want to cut the stems out. The stems are the most prized part. They have a nice flavor and crunch. It's kind of like choy in China, where the stems, the crunch is more highly prized than the greens. These are very narrow Swiss chard. Sometimes they're quite wide and you have to cut them into thin strips, but this only needs a couple of strips, and then crosswise into, like 2-inch pieces, something like that. The stems can go in early. The greens you can also chop up. They go in kind of at the last minute with the pasta. So when the potatoes have had about 10 minutes or so, you can add the pasta, which will probably take about 8 minutes. That's the best, my best guess on that, about 8 minutes. And here we go with our 12 ounces of pasta. We'll stir that in. And after that's had, you know, like maybe 8 minutes, probably no more than that. You want to stir in the greens for the last 2 minutes of that. So meanwhile, you want to get some other things going. You want to get your cheese going, and you need to grate it, you know, just coarsely grated. You need your 2 separate cheeses, and then we also have our flavored butter that we want to get going. So just trim with the fontina, you just want to trim the rind off the sides, then you have something to hold on to with the outside rind while you grate that. And with the Reggiano too, you can hold on. You don't have to use the best Reggiano. You can use any Grana, you know, Grana Padano is a perfectly good choice, providing it's a decent one. By the way, if you want to serve this immediately, you want to preheat your baking dish in the oven so that you can just put this together and serve it right away. But you don't have to preheat the pan if you're going to do it ahead of time. So when your pasta mixture is all done, then you want to start transferring that potato and pasta and Swiss chard mixture into your baking dish. So first, you know, use about half of it. Look at, you can see how steamy it is. It's fogging up my camera lens. About half of that, and then about half of the cheese, and then the rest of the or the cheeses, both of them. You can save a little of the Reggiano out, put on top. Then the rest of the pasta mixture on top of that, and then layer that with the cheeses. So don't miss all the good stuff in the pot. All the potatoes and all the good Swiss chard. Swiss chard is a beet green, by the way, so it has a wonderful kind of sweetness to it that I think most people love, whether they are familiar with it or not. So here we go now. Oh, I decided when I was putting this dish together that it needed just a little bit more Reggiano on top, so I grated a little bit more on there. I'm moistening this with a little bit of the cooking liquid because I'm preparing it ahead of time. If you're going to serve it immediately from a hot casserole, then don't moisten it, you won't need it. But a little bit of that cooking liquid I think is a good choice, and of course some pepper. So grind some pepper over the top there, and that'll give a wonderful savor to it. So we have to get our butter flavored. So we have our sage and our garlic very thinly sliced. So let's take 4 ounces of butter and put it in a bright pan so you can see the color of it, stainless or some kind of white finish or something. So put that on. It has to melt, of course, and then it will start to brown after it dries out. So you can see with this one, The bottom of the pan is starting to brown, the milk solids, but the butter itself is still fairly pale. Put it back on for just another 30 seconds or so until it takes on a little more color. Then to that I will add our slivered garlic and watch how that will start to bubble up, and the flavor is just, the smell, ooh, heaven. Then in goes the sage if you're using it. Same thing. So now your browned butter is ready to flavor your dish. So stir it up and then spoon or drizzle it as evenly as you can all over the casserole. And then it will be ready for the oven. Or to serve if you're going to do it in real time. If you're going to set it aside for later, then cover it with heavy-duty foil. Make sure you don't touch the cheese with the foil. Keep it bowed up above the surface of the food so it doesn't stick to the cheese. When you're ready, this goes in a preheated 350 oven for, like maybe only 15 minutes or so if it's still warm, or a half hour if it's cool. Then uncover it, let it brown a little more, and there we go. That's our pizzoccheri alla Valtellinese. I got that pretty well. Thank you for joining me today. The recipe is at brucebeckinthekitchen.com, and I hope you'll try this. I think it's a wonderful dish, especially in cold weather. It's a great favorite of mine, has been for a long time, and I want you to try it and love it too. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.